I see you. I see me.
Yes, but does anybody see us? Did the tree indeed fall in the forest? Did it indeed make a sound?
Yes.
I need the validation of others to know for sure if I
did.
actually exist. No, I don't. I swear I don't. Hello.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Eva, Silent Wing, Teishu, X.
Hi. You just jumping ahead. I was
Yeah.
going to maybe say our name for anybody who shows up later and doesn't know who the hell we are.
Who are we?
I don't know. I'm not even sure we exist. I'm having an existential crisis. For folks who show up later, we are 9 minutes early, so feel free to fast forward. Also, my name is Kayla Lords.
And I'm John Brownstone.
This is Loving BDSM. Okay, there, done. You want to know how bad I am at that? I'm not even good at, like, introducing myself to strangers in person.
Yeah.
So, to remember to do it on camera or in an audio recording, difficult. So, yes.
I'm bad about that in person, too. I forget my name.
I forget my name. I forget their name. They tell me their name. I've forgotten their name. We all need name tags is what I'm saying. Hi, Teishu. And yes, happy tax day. I paid our taxes 2 weeks ago. It was painful. Hi, Eva. Hi, Silent Winged. Hi, X. Hi, Darren. I'm going through. I love how y'all talk before we even get here. Hi, Amber L. Hi, Alexandria. Let's see. Hi, Willow. Hi, Aria. We are 8 minutes early.
Mm-hmm.
This is the butt rub portion. We are using natural light today. Hopefully that'll keep some of the heat down. Ironically, opening up the blinds to let the natural light in also allows heat in. Keeping them closed and using the box light also allows heat in. We're just going to be hot. No matter what. Oh, God, are we in stereo now? Hi, Liz. Hi, Sharon. Oh, X.
Yeah.
Well, tax day for the U.S. is usually April 15th, but they pushed it back to July 15th. We'd already filed our taxes. That's how we were able to buy our house, but we had not paid what we owed.
Mm-mm.
Our tax situation was so jacked up from last year because the tax person who was supposed to be handling it for us did nothing for us.
No.
So we ended up paying way less than I thought we would pay, but we still had to pay a chunk.
Yep.
We haven't had a year yet since I went freelance. We have not paid. You always pay, but I mean, like when you do your taxes, I'm hoping that this is the year, the 2020 tax cycle, that they go, you've paid. You've paid it all. You don't have to write another check or make another electronic payment.
Yeah.
Yeah, first check I've written in a year was to the tax person. Hi, Callie. Hi, Sans Puns. Hi, Rocky. Thank you, Silent Wing. I remembered all the steps this time. The past couple times I put makeup on in order to either live stream or do whatever, I literally was forgetting steps that I feel are very important to the process. So, glad I remembered them all. And I watched a video yesterday of this beautiful woman who has this Alexandra. I'm not sure what her name is because I've only seen one video. She's got this great pixie cut, she's just gorgeous, and she does not appear to wear glasses, at least on film. And so she's like, I'm going to do a one color eye, and it was this massive canary yellow, and it was beautiful on her. And I went, if I did that, I would look like I was sick. I would just look like I had an illness and needed to be in a hospital. So, but I did try the technique on brown. Oh my gosh. X, I never had to pay extra taxes until I started to work for myself. Now, part of that is because when you work for yourself, you're supposed to be paying every quarter anyway, or right now we pay every month. And I wasn't always good about that. And then I did get good about that, and I still had to pay. And then, so this year we're finally doing it the way we should be doing it.
Right.
And we should be okay.
Yep.
Hi, Crow. Yeah, and once the kids start aging out, any hope of getting money back will be gone.
Yeah.
I do remember it was early in my first marriage. Was the youngest even born yet? I don't think so. We had $10,000 back.
Oh, was that when they had the earned income tax credit and all
something?
that?
And I think it was I can't remember. We had bought a house, and so I think we got a tax credit for, I was like, why is the government giving me so much money? And then how the hell did I blow it? Like, I had nothing to show for anything after that windfall. None at all. None at all. Yeah, it was all downhill from there. You're right, Silent Wing. Actually, here's what I find ironic about the whole makeup situation. I don't own a single purple eyeshadow palette or an eyeshadow palette that's predominantly purple. I have one palette that has a kind of ugly purple that I don't really like. And then I have another palette that has pinky brown colors. I have no purple, and I don't know how this is. Yeah. But no, hi, Mr. Spock. The person we now pay to do our taxes and keep us, like, on the right path, I adore her. She has no clue what we actually do, but I adore her. Yeah, yeah, Tayshu, it is all your fault. I'm just glad we got the tax bill paid a couple weeks ago. I mean, it was painful. It was so painful.
Yeah.
But it's one less thing I have to think about now.
But it's off the plate.
Because we have known since, what, February?
Yeah.
We had to pay that amount.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I saw that they had delayed tax deadlines, I went, oh, no, the government is not getting one red cent 1 minute earlier than they have to. But I did pay 2 weeks early. We have 3 minutes. Oh, okay, let's get off tax. Well, I'm going to stop talking about taxes. What y'all talk about in the live stream chat is on y'all. Go for it. Our shirts, I kink and I know things. It is an Ignixia design. The link to this specific shirt for anybody who's interested on Teespring is in the description box. We are not affiliated. We like kink shirts, and so and we're friends with Ignixia, and so you click a link and you buy one of those shirts, Ignixia sees all the benefits of that. So, but we like these shirts and they fit well.
They're comfy.
Yes, this is a large. This was the order where I paid the extra $1 for not the cheapest t-shirt. If you're gonna order the t-shirt, pay the extra $1 for not the cheapest one. I will say I think they shrank up just a teeny tiny little bit because I keep expanding, one of the two, because I think the collar is a little higher, but it's still really comfortable. And it still fits. I'm wearing a large. You're wearing a medium.
Yep.
So. Oh gosh, Liz. Well, I'm glad that the day we're on a big TV is the second time we've used this camera to live stream. Thank you to everybody who came to our live stream test last night, Tuesday night, for people who were time traveling, people who are watching later. No, Silent Winged, I've seen her on Twitter and Instagram, but yeah, I haven't seen her in chats and stuff for a while.
I think she's been busy. She's got a lot going on.
I know she just, because I saw the picture from Instagram, Ignixia just did an online class on cell popping.
Oh,
and
okay.
Since she didn't have a physical human person there to be her demo bottom, she used a piece of pork.
Oh,
there's a picture on Instagram, yeah.
Okay.
Which I thought you maybe knew about it because I knew you had wanted to learn more about cell popping.
Yeah, I did. No, I didn't know about that. I wish I did.
Maybe she'll do it again later.
Yeah.
Because you make cell poppers, but we've never
I've been making cell popping tools.
We don't use them, but you make them.
Yeah.
Because a Kinkster taught you how to make them, though.
Yes.
I mean, that's the beauty of this community. I love this freaking community.
Yeah.
Okay, it is officially 12:30 before you click the audio button. YouTube stuff only. Just a reminder, if you are new here or you watch later, I am Kayla Lords.
And I'm John Brownstone.
This is Loving BDSM. I'm going to try and get better at actually describing who the fuck we are for strangers. We talk about BDSM and power exchange and how to have healthy, happy relationships. Live stream commenters, feel free. Is that accurate? Do you feel like that's what we do? Because I'm trying to figure out our elevator pitch. I'm not good at being concise. I don't think anybody's noticed. I'm sure that's a mystery for everybody. Anyway, if you enjoy any of what you watch today, we love a good thumbs up. We love subscribing.
And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're updated on new content.
And then, just do what Daddy says. I am not going to tell anybody they need to hit the notification bell because I don't hit the notification bell for any of the YouTubers I follow. I subscribe, but I do not hit the notification bell. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite and tell you that you have to. I'm really bad about talking about this other part, and I'm very conscientious of the world we live in, and economics being what they are. We do have a Patreon if you want to support the work we do. If you want stuff you're not going to get anywhere else, we have patron-only Q&A. We do a patron-only podcast. We let patrons know of things we're doing before we let the general public know. Patreon.com/Kilolords. Link is in the description box. But the other option we finally turned on, and we don't know how it works, and for people who don't want to do a monthly thing, we do in the live streams have the ability for like the super chat and the contribute to your favorite YouTuber now in a live stream thing for people who want to do a one-off, one-time thing. No pressure ever. We are not going to like constantly talk about it. It's just there. Because the reality is that the support we get from people, whether through Patreon or when people buy stuff or when people use our affiliate links or whatever, that's why we have a new camera. And that's why we are doing some of the stuff we're doing. And that's why I could pay the tax bill a couple of weeks ago. So I'm just really aware of that and like to remind myself to let y'all know. Because I'm really bad at that.
And just real quick, I just wanted to mention last night in the Patreon Discord.
Yes, we have a patron-only Discord too. Yeah.
We had an interesting conversation about you.
Oh, God.
And we came to realize that if you ever were to say that you have come to terms with the Loving DS1 handle on Instagram,
I hate that fucking handle.
That would be code for you've been kidnapped.
Yeah. Yeah, if you ever get a message or see a message from me going, oh no, our Instagram handle, it's fine, I love it now. Send help. Send help. From the title, we're talking about feeling overwhelmed this week. So that's our topic. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I think we're good. I think we can actually, because I have announcements and we'll do that when everybody's here together.
So let's bring everybody in.
Okay. Before we get into everything, I have a couple of announcements. One, and they're both reminders because I've talked about these things a lot. One is that we do still have an active Hot Octopus coupon code for the entire shop, not just for a specific product. That is CMM15, 15% off any purchase you make from Hot Octopus through July 21st. So I think this will probably be the last reminder we can give in audio format. And I just shocked myself on a chair. Ow. The second reminder is we do have a giveaway going on right now through YouTube for Elegantly Owned. We have a video review for Elegantly Owned day collars and anklets and necklaces. Oh my. And through that video, we have a link and you can enter to win one of 3 prizes that we have. And for podcast listeners, that video is linked in the show notes. If you are a newsletter subscriber, that link is in all places as well. We actually email that stuff out and we email those reminders out. So those are the announcements. On to the topic. Oh, thank God you turned on a fan. Oh my God, I was starting to sweat. I triple checked myself on this week's topic because I was like, clearly we have talked about this. I know we have talked about this. And this is yet again one of those topics that of course we've talked about it, but never on its own, always in the context of other things. And that's about feeling overwhelmed. Spoiler alert, we all feel that way at some point, regardless of role, dom, sub, switch, doesn't matter, regardless of gender or sexual identity or any of those things. Everybody, it's like one of the few universal things, everybody at some point is going to feel overwhelmed in some way. And I thought that we should talk about it as its own thing. Partly because I am one of those people who goes over previous conversations in my head a lot, and I'm always dissecting them, and I'm always having revelations about how I could have said this and I should have said that. Many people I know will relate to that, and not in the, oh gosh, I'm so awkward, but oh gosh, but what about this point? And I didn't make that point. And one of those times recently has been in a conversation with somebody who their partner is not, sort of, I don't want to say they're not giving it their all in the DS, but there's definitely a disconnect between what they say and what they do. And there are a lot of reasons for that, and we've talked about that in many, many episodes about why that might be. But one of the things that I kind of sometimes forget to think about is that people can feel overwhelmed. And depending on how they react when they feel overwhelmed, that is always a possibility in sort of your checklist of why is my DS not working the way I thought it would right now. Check to see if either of you are overwhelmed should definitely be on it. So I thought, okay, let's talk about this. Now, because like all of our topics, this is a big one, but I'm trying to be a more organized, and I'm going to pretend to be a professional content creator. I did break this down for us. So we'll talk about this in sections.
Yay.
Okay, yay! That is why I have notes.
Bullet points?
Only a couple. Only a couple.
I like bullet points.
I know you do. I know. I'm also watching the wind kick up. So if y'all start hearing like thunder, rain, deluge, yes, it's raining. Okay, here we go. Let's start with, because I think this one is probably more universal even for people who are beyond the newbie stage. And that is feeling overwhelmed when you're new to DS. So new to DS can be new in terms of you've been with this person for 20 years, but now you're trying power exchange. It can be new partner. It can be the kinkster partner was like, hey, I'd like to do this. Will you do this with me? And you are like, sure, but I know nothing about it. And my partner, who's supposed to like have some brilliant ideas, just walked away from the microphone. So I guess my first thing is just to say that's completely normal. I also think that it manifests in many, many ways. I think that will relate to how you deal with stress in general. So I know that when I get overwhelmed, that tends to come from a place of anxiety for me. And I will do one of two things. I will either try to do all of the things, learn all of the kink, study all of the kink, get all of the information, try to be perfect. I don't know why I go there, but you know, I'm a person of extremes. Or I go the other side of my anxiety where I get really irritable and I procrastinate and I avoid it and I don't want to think about it because it's too much to think about. Can you remember all those years ago when you were new to the idea of DS and kink? Did you feel overwhelmed at any point?
Oh yeah.
How did you react? How did that make you act or move through the world or see things?
It made me feel very disconcerted because, you know, viewing DS online versus stepping into the real world, you know, it's like, oh, there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. And it was very overwhelming, but what finally kind of started to ease that back was beginning to attend munches, going to workshops, and kind of taking in the information.
Sort of immersing yourself in it?
Yeah. And yet, even at the same time doing that, depending on who was doing, you know, certain workshops and stuff, sometimes it was easy to get overwhelmed with the information coming in.
Sure. I can, as somebody who is an over-explainer from hell, I can see how that would happen. And it is when you're new to any part of this, any part that you want to know about, any part that you think you know about, any part that you have a partner who's like, let's go learn about this. It's a bit like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
Because we now live in a world where with a quick Google search, you'll find information. You won't always find good information, but you will find information. And I know that from a lot of conversations I have with newbie kinksters, they're always like, well, how do I know who to trust? How do I know who a good resource is? Where do I start? Now, for me, the where do you start thing, my default answer is, well, what are you most intrigued by, interested in, turned on by, whatever? What's the thing you can't stop thinking about? Start with that. I do think that part of that those feelings of being overwhelmed when you're new is that many of us, with or without perfectionist tendencies, tend to think that we're supposed to just either just know it, or that we can sit down, watch one 20-minute YouTube video and we should have all of the knowledge. And when we don't, we think we're behind. We think we're not doing this fast enough. We think we're missing out on a lot of things because we don't have the knowledge right now.
And it's easy to feel that way because, you step into lifestyle and you meet people who have been doing this for 20, 30 years.
True, but to me, that's where you should gain perspective. They have been doing it for 20 or 30 years. You've been doing it for 5 minutes. Yeah. So if possible, when possible, trying to take the long view. And I understand that when you're in that situation, when you're in the middle of being new and overwhelmed, you're not going to have that perspective yet. So listen to the people who have the perspective. I'll be one of them to tell you that you don't have to know it all. If you are a partner who is leading your partner into kink, I want you to set your expectations right, that they don't have to know it all as fast as you want them to know it all. They're not going to come to this through the path you took necessarily, even if you guide them along that path because that's what's familiar to you. They're not going to think about kink in the same way that you think about it. This is a very highly individualized thing where, yes, when many of us are fortunate enough to have partners where how I view kink and how you view kink are very complementary and we work well together and it fits, but that's not always the case either. I go back to that word I hate, and this is for both the new person who is overwhelmed and the partner, if this is your situation, who's trying to bring them into it. Go back to that P word I hate.
Patience.
Oh, I hate that word. I hate that word. I hate that word. It's an awful word, and yet it's the only right word. When I'm talking to people who the DS relationship is new, and they're both new to DS, it's easier to be heard when I say, okay, take this one step at a time. You've had a conversation, you've agreed, hey, this is a thing we want to do. Great. That's a wonderful first, 12 steps. Pick that number at random and yet 12 step. Okay. Now you're going to pick a thing, one of your laundry list of things, and you're going to work on that one thing, and you're going to try it and tweak it and talk about it and see if you like it and see if you don't. And if you don't, you toss it and you go to another thing. If you do, my personal opinion is if you start with your one thing, power exchange, it might be there's a rule because you've decided you're going to have rules in your power exchange. Okay, great. You have a rule. Both of you get comfortable with that rule, either following that rule as the submissive or enforcing that rule as the dominant. And how does praise fit in? And how do rewards fit in? How does discipline fit in? And does it fit in? And you get really, really, really good at it. And then you add a second thing. For some people, they can do 2 things. They can do 3 things. But if you try to do all of the things, you have this literal list of all these things you're going to try, and you try to do them all at once, you are begging to be overwhelmed. And then to give up and to quit and to go, BDSM clearly isn't for me. Well, it might not be for you, and that's okay. But if you're basing it on the fact that you tried to do all of the things on day 1, and by day 2 you somehow were not perfect at it yet, I think we have mismanaged expectations. And we did do an entire episode on managing expectations. We have done that before.
But, somebody mentioned in the live chat about, asking new people about their kinks. And that's something to me that was kind of overwhelming in the beginning. Because, one, there's so many kinks out there, and somebody, kind of puts you on the spot. Well, what are you into? What kind of kinks do you like? And you kind of, it's one of those things where somebody asks you and you kind of draw a blank. And I know for me, it wasn't until many years later discovered kink checklists.
Which are a huge help.
Which are a huge help. And that is something I wish I had.
Oh, yeah.
From the very beginning.
Oh, yeah, I was very fortunate that my first relationship and then you both were like, here is a checklist, let's go through it. Yep. Because that's the other thing. Either when you ask that question or you are asked that question, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what kinks are out there. So when you're asked that question, just to the best of your ability, however the conversation flows, talk about what you've seen or heard about, and describe what you're fantasizing about. And somebody mentioned in the live stream chat, which is very true. Not all fantasies can be acted upon. They're not safe or they're not reasonable, but they can be the starting point of, oh, I've just described this really extreme, I put air quotes around that word, everybody sees this differently, kidnapping fantasy. But maybe the kidnapping fantasy can't happen, but what we're talking about are power dynamics and feeling out of control and being overpowered. Now that's something to play with. That's something to explore. Oh, maybe part of my fantasy that'll never happen involved being tied up or being bound in some way. Okay, now we're touching on something. Now we're talking about bondage. And I think I can imagine it being difficult in a situation where one partner is the experienced partner, for it to be really difficult to realize that they want something that you want, but to also realize that they're like on a completely different level at this point. They just don't know enough for any of those things to maybe be safe yet. And I have seen people say, I've heard them say, I've read, there are some people who don't want an inexperienced partner. They don't want to take on the responsibility of bringing that person along and educating them. And I think that the right word that they use there is the responsibility. I could see where that is also overwhelming. You are the person who has some knowledge. You want your partner to come into this with you, to be a part of this with you, to help you get what you need, to figure out what they need, and you're feeling impatient. Your needs aren't being met as a kinkster. I mean, because let's be real here. On both sides of that slash, there are needs to be met. And everybody's going to be different about how they feel about how quickly or how well those needs are met. And when your needs are not getting met, it is very hard to stay excited about the relationship. And I can absolutely see the opposite being true in that scenario of a newbie and an experienced kinkster. The experienced kinkster getting overwhelmed, not by what needs to be taught, unless they're not used to guiding a partner, but just when is this ever going to happen? When are we ever going to get kind of to the same place? It's a personal decision for people in those situations, but I mean, the only safe thing is to meet your newbie partner where they're at. You can't take them from BDSM 101 on day one to advanced placement level, expert, get your PhD in kink on day 3. Like, it just doesn't work that way. You are asking for misunderstanding. You're asking for people to get hurt physically, mentally, emotionally. You're asking for it to go wrong and for everybody to be unhappy. And so it is about cultivating that awful P word that I hate, and it's patience. When you are the person overwhelmed as a newbie kinkster, patience with yourself and a lot of is key too. You have to be. You have to. I'll be the voice reminding you that there's no finish line and there's no prize for how quickly you learn this stuff. First of all, how many years have you been into kink that you've known you were a kinkster? Are we at 20 years yet, or 15?
Well, if you go back to the very first time I kinked up, a lot longer
We're
than
at 35, 36 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, would you consider yourself done?
Oh, no.
Right, you're constantly learning. You just missed a class on cell popping because that's a thing you'd like to know about and you don't know about. It is when we say journey, yes, it's cliche, but that's what it is. This is a path that you choose to be on or not. You can step off the path anytime you want. But it's a path with no real in destination. There's no point where somebody crowns you perfect kinkster who knows all. I mean, and if that exists, I'm a little twitchy about that. Because there is no point where you can possibly know it all. And quite frankly, if you come across a kinkster who's like, well, of course I know it all. I've been doing it for blah-de-blah years. I would like you to either laugh in their face or run the other way. It is an ongoing process of learning because you learn about yourself, you learn about kinks that are out there, you learn about what you like, you learn about what you don't like. And then as we all grow and change as people, the things we thought we didn't like, maybe we're interested in now. Things that we used to love, we don't want to do anymore. So, yeah. Journey is cliche, but journey is accurate. So, get over it. Find another word if you'd like, but essentially that's what it is. Would you have anything else to say? Because, see, I broke this up into sections. Anything else to say about being new to DS and being overwhelmed?
The only thing I can say about that, and that's something that we've said time and time again, it's easy to become overwhelmed, and I think the most important thing you can remember with that is, take a step back. Take a step back and slow it down. And
focus on the pleasure. I mean, there's a lot of effort to be put into learning and discovery and educating yourself and navigating this lifestyle if you choose to make it a lifestyle. But it's also supposed to be fun and feel good and fulfilling. Exactly. And I mean, if you're not getting any joy out of it, what the hell are you doing? Because, I mean, this is not supposed to be like high school geometry. It's really not. Unless you really enjoyed high school geometry, and then yes, that's exactly what it's supposed to be like. Pick your analogy.
You have to bring that up.
I did, because I knew I knew I would get that reaction from you. I could have said high school calculus, because that gives me the shivers too. And if you are not having fun, if you are not enjoying it, if you're not getting pleasure or fulfillment on even a small level, then something is off somewhere. And it's time for a conversation with your partner. It's time to maybe admit to yourself that you're fucking overwhelmed by it all. And it's a little too much too soon, or maybe it's not going the direction you really want it to. And that means it's time for hard conversations. And quite frankly, you're new to DS, good. Get used to this, because there's a lot of good about power exchange and kink and BDSM and all of that. There's a lot of fucking hard conversations to be had. I mean, it's a bit of soul bearing there, especially once you have a consistent partner that you're doing things with often. Yeah. So, okay, we're going to go to the next type of feeling overwhelmed. I think the entire audience is going to relate here. There will be overlap on some of these things, of course. The second one I've got is being overwhelmed by life. And then that life and being overwhelmed by it impacts your power exchange. It impacts your kink. What? I've never experienced this before. No.
What parallel universe are you from?
What is this a feeling of overwhelmed that you say? Quite frankly, at this point in life, I would just like to be whelmed. I don't want to be underwhelmed. I don't want to be overwhelmed. I would just like to be whelmed. Being whelmed sounds lovely. So we have talked about this in a million episodes. I think this is why I triple checked myself on this topic, because I was like, I know we've talked about this. It's when vanilla life interferes. It's when a pandemic interferes. Yeah. It's when you're parenting and you've got young children. I know we have a lot of listeners and watchers who are parents of young children, and I get the messages of, will I ever get to kink again? Yes, those children do not stay small forever. I promise they grow up, and then you want to be annoyed at them for other reasons, but at least they're grown. So this is just like everything else. It is probably another universal. Okay, life will overwhelm you at some point. It doesn't matter if it's not overwhelming you now when we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic. It will overwhelm you at other times. It will overwhelm you in little things and big things. It overwhelms us every time we move. Every time we've moved, it has fucked up our DS for a little bit. Yeah. We are better at dealing with it, but it always gets to us.
I think the first time it happened was the worst, because we
took the long distance relationship and went, let's just live together now.
Yeah. and that really did kind of put ahead. We actually had to literally say, we need to put a hold on that, and we did, and yet every time after that, every subsequent move has in some way, shape, or form kind of throw a monkey wrench in the gears.
But we're better at handling it now.
I think because we almost expect it.
We know it's going to happen. Yeah, we're not surprised by it.
We know something's going to happen. I mean, when you brought up yesterday about, how do you feel about this topic? You noticed I was like, I didn't even hesitate. I was like, yes.
Yeah, because we had a choice of two, and I think the next one will be next week. But yes, and that one was much more lighthearted.
And I think the reason why I jumped on it is because it hits close to home for me right now.
You hadn't slept the night before. You'd had about 2 hours.
Well, there was that. That was a whole other...
I know, but I can tell when you're feeling overwhelmed. First of all, if you're not sleeping, you basically are just overwhelmed during the rest of the day.
Well, that was actually a twofold thing, not the night before.
I understand that. But I know you. Mm-hmm. The more overwhelmed you get about life or a specific thing going on or something in your head, the less you sleep.
Yeah.
And then being exhausted and trying to move through a day, which many of us can relate to that, makes everything you're trying to do
it compounds everything.
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
So yes, you were, regardless of why you didn't sleep or what was on your mind, you were overwhelmed by whatever, and I knew it. I had to be that submissive who did tough love yesterday.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Grateful for it.
So let's just get it out there. Whatever happens in your life, that good or bad, I mean, even good things can overwhelm you, and so then your DS suffers a little bit. Every time I have changed something about my work life, whether it's to make a little bit more money, take on more jobs, or to pull back and have more time for us, those are positives. Those are net positives in our life. They are over fucking whelming because it's new and I don't know what to expect and I don't know how to feel. And that creeps into our DS. Now, some people will automatically say, oh, well, lean into your power exchange at those times. And I will say, when you can, when that works, yes.
Yeah. Grab that bull by the horns.
Whew, but it doesn't always.
No.
It is. I have noticed with us, it is especially difficult if we are both overwhelmed, whether it is by the same thing or a different thing. That is when it is near impossible for us because we get so wrapped up in our thoughts and what are we doing next and what does this mean and a little bit of anxiety and lack of sleep that we're not functioning well as a relationship usually in general, let alone power exchange.
Right.
I have often thought, what we need to do is we need to blow off some steam using kinky fuckery. Let's pull out a flogger. Let's pull out of this. Yeah. And yet I've also found that while I know that is possibly a good thing and would help depending on what it is that's got us overwhelmed, I'm too overwhelmed to even do it.
Yeah. And that's kind of what had been happening with me. We are pretty much through the move.
Oh yeah, we're at all the little stuff.
We realized the other night that we have 3 boxes.
We are so procrastinating on those fucking
left
boxes.
in the bedroom. And that's it. As far as unpacking, it is done.
We're doing home decor things now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice.
And what's been happening with me now that we're past the unpacking, we're past all the big things that we had to do. Now that we're down to the little things, I am feeling more overwhelmed by the little things of late than I was by the big things.
Here's my question, and I don't say this is always true for all things that cause you to be overwhelmed, but I wonder if this is true in this case. Is it that feeling, similarly that we talked about when you're like new to DS and you think you're supposed to know all the things on day one? Is it that there's some part of you going, I need to get all of this done right now, or I should have had this done, or this list is forever, it's never going to get done?
To a certain extent,
is it a
yes.
time thing?
It's kind of a time thing. There is one thing that I have to do. That in order to do this, I need to turn the power out in the house.
Yes, there are a few things.
A few things that have to be done that way. And we are in the middle of July.
It's fucking hot as hell.
and we have had days with a heat index of, 100 degrees here.
And plus, yeah,
Plus,
higher than
yeah.
that.
I'm sorry, folks. Ain't no way in hell I am turning off.
I would be mad at you if you did that.
This house will become a sweat box in a matter of minutes. So I had to come to a decision. This is something that's going to have to wait till fall. And doing that was difficult for me.
You know, it's funny because I had, at the same time, I was not feeling overwhelmed by this, but I was getting, I'm going to use the word, but I'm it's not real. I did not act on this. I'm not acting on this.
Yeah.
I was feeling cranky, which is for me when I'm feeling overwhelmed, one of the ways I get irritable. And I was feeling cranky because there were all these little things that still were not done. And yet, and here was the nice thing. I was able to do this, not always able to do this. I was like, it would not be very submissive of me to go, when the fuck is this getting done? I was like, okay, I will fall back on the power exchange. And I will gently ask, when is this happening? Yeah. How are we handling this? And what is hilarious is the moment you said, yeah, I got to turn off the power for that. And I went, oh God, it's July. And you went, yeah. You were like, I don't want to do this until fall. I went, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I immediately stopped being cranky because I was like, actually, that makes total sense. But I was pleased with myself that I had enough peace of mind. It's not the expression I want, but enough self-awareness to go, do not come at this in a cranky way. Do not be the submissive you want to see in the world, you know? and ask politely. And the moment you said it, I was like, okay. And then we were back on the same page again. And once we were on the same page again, I don't know about you, but I was not worried about it. I'm like, yeah, I want it to be done, but there's a plan. Now, one of the things that's, speaking of life overwhelming, because it is small things and it is big things. Right now, I personally am completely overwhelmed by the whole school is about to start on August 10th, and Florida's numbers keep going up, and our school district has lost their fucking mind. Like, that is overwhelming. I'm not getting into a discussion about it. Yeah, if you've been around this channel, this podcast for more than 5 minutes, you know how I would feel about that. Mm-hmm. It is overwhelming, and I have gone into protective mom mode, which is way different than willing submissive mode.
Mama Bear's been woke.
Oh, Mama Bear was woke on other things this week as well, and the 14-year-old got to witness what Mama Bear really looks like, and I think he was kind of comforted by that. Ready to tear somebody apart limb from limb. Anyway,
damn girl.
I know, and that is a point where when I'm thinking about those things, when we're discussing and interacting in life around that topic, not a bit of my submissiveness comes out. I'm whatever decision is made ultimately, however we move forward on that, it will be one of those things where power exchange means nothing at that moment. Kink means nothing. It is all parenting stuff, and that will have to take the lead. Of course it will. That is the nature of life. I tend to get a little eye rolly with people who are like, all other roles in life are meaningless beyond this one. I'm like, is it though? I would be interested in your life to know that, because is it? Because I promise you, when I go into mom mode, I'm not also submissive mode. Just like when I go into like own my own business mode, not submissive. In an obnoxious sort of way. But I also know that whatever we decide to do with the kids going back to school and however that plays out, for at least the first few weeks, minimum, that will overwhelm every other part of life. Mm-hmm. We will either have to. So then, of course, people are like, yes, we know this. So what the fuck do we do? Well, part of that is you either have to mindfully carve out time to connect. We've talked about this in so many other episodes. You have to mindfully make the time. We do tend to do that. It's our nighttime routine. It's our time when we're just the two of us in bed. We might talk about the things on our mind, but then we tease and we go into daddy baby girl, and we sort of allow for a little bit of time the rest of the world to drop away, because for that little bit of time, the kids are in bed, or, the day is done. No decisions can be made. Nothing. There, no phone calls can be made. Like nothing. Whatever is going on in your life that's overwhelming you, nothing can go on with that. It's got to exist for 8 to 10 hours while you're trying to get some sleep. And that is when I've noticed, sometimes purposefully and sometimes we just do it. we make that time for each other.
Yeah.
The other thing I've noticed in situations where we look back and go, oh shit, yeah, we were overwhelmed. We fall back on our communication skills. So like the communication skills you can learn as part of BDSM and power exchange are very important for your relationship, but they are universal. They, on some level, in some way, work in almost every situation. You adapt and modify them, based on whatever it is, but they are universal. They are skills that carry through in other ways. And so what I've noticed is when we do start feeling overwhelmed, or one of us starts to feel overwhelmed, we have gotten better at using those communication skills to get through it, to talk through a problem. The other thing that I know I do, I'll let you say if you do this. In situations where it is very clear that John Brownstone is the one overwhelmed and I'm doing okay, right? Not great, but I'm not overwhelmed. For me, because I am a service-oriented submissive, me helping you get through that is very much an act of service. Now, from the outside looking in, it probably wouldn't look like it because is there some tough love going on sometimes. But also, I will also step in and help you get things done and try to take part of the load off and, help talk you through something or be a sounding board. And those things are things that healthy partnerships do. But by getting into the headspace of, I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. I'm doing this because it's helpful, but also I'm a service submissive who is serving right now. And this is fulfilling to me. Like all of those things get to be true at the same time. Then it is a submissive act to help you get through that. Now, not in the middle of anxiety. We've talked about that with my mental health, but like when I'm just generally overwhelmed and you are not, does your Dom or Daddy Dom side kick in? And if so, how?
Yeah. And I think that's the time when my fixer kicks in. All right, because then I want to, all right, let's see what we need to do here. And here's the interesting part, because somebody brought up in the live stream chat about, well, didn't you just say about in BDSM, don't try to do everything all at once?
Of course.
And
I give advice, I don't take it. No.
Well, and there, because it is easier for me to look at you and say, oh, well, you need to do this, and if you and then that and that.
It's always easier for the outside looking in.
And where I was going, I was heading into a place where I felt, well, these are all little things. I should be able to get them all done and get them over with. And I was letting them overwhelm me. And from that, the DS was taking a back seat because I'm stuck in this, the record stuck.
Yep.
And I think what finally popped me out of it was I realized, wait a second. This is a small shit. This is not the AC is broken and we're going to sweat to death here.
Right. These
are the little things. And that's when I finally started overcoming that, when I realized that, and this is not a list of do or die things.
Perspective is a wonderful thing when you can get it.
Yeah. And that's when I realized, if I just consistently chip away at this stuff, if I just, little at a time, it's going to get done. And you even noticed last night I gave you a task for today.
I know. I did.
And you did the task.
I did do it.
Thank you. Good girl.
I snarked about it yesterday, but I
did
do
it. I saw you did do it. Good girl.
Totally snarked about it.
But now that I'm getting that portion under control, now I'm getting back to focusing on the DS.
And I think that there's always a certain amount of self-forgiveness needed. We tend to hold ourselves to higher standards than we hold anybody else to. Ever. Y'all just heard me say, slow the hell down, be patient, blah, blah, blah. And yet, when I turn that inward, I find that difficult.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of like cheesy advice, but I do sometimes find value in it of if you would not say that to or about somebody else, right? Like if you would not hold somebody to that standard, or you would not, that maybe that negative self-talk you might get into when you are feeling overwhelmed, you would not say that to somebody you cared about, then why are you saying it to yourself? Now, there are whole industries devoted to the why of that. But if you can get a moment of clarity to go, wait, I wouldn't tell somebody I dislike this. Why am I saying this to myself? Sometimes that can be enough to sort of snap you out of it a little bit and go, wait, okay, let me get some perspective here. The other thing, and we sort of alluded to this, I want to touch on before we go to the third level of being overwhelmed, that I think is fairly common. And that is learning from each experience you have. So we talked about every time we've moved, we get overwhelmed and our DS suffers on some level. Every time we've moved, we've learned a lesson. And so each time has gotten easier, not just because we're used to it, but because we know what can happen. We know how we're going to usually react. We know where we're going to kind of fall down on things. And so we are much more aware. Each time we become a little bit more aware. And this last time, I think we were just extremely aware. And so it becomes part of our conversations. One of us is calling the other one on their bullshit. One of us, and it's not always me, it's not always JB, it's whoever is paying attention at the time. One of us is going, whoa, let's slow down here. It's okay. This is fine. Or one of us is going into our own dom or sub headspace and being that person in the relationship. It's going to come out a little bit. The same is true for you. You get kind of dommy, I'm gonna usually eventually fall into that. Right. So, yeah. Okay. I'm going to go, unless you have something else you want to say about that, I'm going to go to the third one on my list, and it's the final one. And it, again, there's overlap with all of these, and these are not the only examples. These are just the ones that came to me. And that is, and we've gone through this too.
Oh, yeah.
Feeling overwhelmed when you change your DS. Y'all, you can be doing power exchange, kink, BDSM, whatever term you use, for 20 fucking years. You make a change to it, there's a good chance you're going to get overwhelmed. This is the one I would never say everybody feels this way. This is the one where I do think some people handle this differently / better than others.
Well,
but it is common.
There are people out there who thrive on change. But
yeah, I'm not one of them.
I think speaking for the majority, though, the majority of people, when you get something running smoothly, it's easy to get in that comfort zone.
It's very familiar. You know what to do. You don't have to think about it.
You kind of go on autopilot, and everything's just, smooth sailing, calm waters, and things are just right as rain. And when things change, for whatever reason,
even when it's a change you want.
Even when it's something you want. It's difficult because you have to retrain yourself.
Yes. There's there's a book. Oh God, it's about habits and tendencies. And it is so good about it's by Gretchen Rubin. I know it's by Gretchen Rubin. The 4 Tendencies talks about changing habits and why it is so difficult to change habits. And that is fairly universal.
Yeah.
Fairly universal. So,
well, I think the best example I can give of that is, your commute to work. All right? You have a route to work that you are very familiar with. And, I can attest to this. For many, many years, I took the same route home. And there were times I'd get home and like, oh, I'm here already. I don't remember the drive.
Right, yes, I've totally had that happen too.
You become so familiar with that route. Your your brain kind of literally goes
it actually is a preservation of energy. It's why once we develop habits, they're so hard to break, because your brain is using less energy to go through those motions because it knows them. And so when you break those habits and you change something, and in this case we're talking about your DS,
and you got to refire the synapses.
It's if you're exhausted at the end of a day, that's part of why. It is harder. It is harder to make the change. We have hardwired ourselves into a habit, and so changing that habit for many of us, we have to rewire our brain on some level. And so it is difficult. And part of the feeling overwhelmed is the difficulty of that. It is the fact that before you were not consciously thinking of the things you were doing. Now you have to consciously think of them. And I think on that, when it's that part of it that might be overwhelming you, or you're feeling overwhelmed by that, I think the best thing to do is just to realize that is not a failure of yours. That is common. 99.999% of people go through that. I also think that part of the feeling overwhelmed when there's changes to your kink relationship is not just, so the familiar is comforting, like you said, and some of us just are not good with change. Hi, I'm one of those people. But there's a little bit of the fear of the unknown. You knew what your kink relationship power exchange was before you made this change. Maybe it wasn't as fulfilling as it could have been. Maybe it wasn't exactly what you wanted, so that's why you're seeking the change, or you agreed to the change, but you knew it. And now you're potentially venturing into unknown territory. And that can also, even mild like nervousness and fear can lead to feeling overwhelmed. So that may be some of it too. There are those like me who don't like to not be good at things. That's why I'm not a real big fan of change. And so making a shift means I might have to not be good at something for a while, so until I get good at it. And as a perfectionist, I really don't like that feeling. And it is, then it combines the feeling kind of nervousness and being a little scared of it, and fear of the unknown, with the, oh my God, I'm rewiring my brain to take on a new habit or a new way of doing things. Sometimes, though, I have found that the change is invigorating and exciting.
Yes.
Until it's not. Until it's not. I have noticed most of the changes you and I have made, where I did not feel overwhelmed by them, were the things that ended up being gradual shifts that were happening sort of naturally, but we weren't naming it. And then we named it. And then I was like, oh, well, that's what we're doing anyway. Becoming Daddy Baby Girl was one of those things. Yeah. We were well on the path to that. We just didn't have the words for it. And by the time we went, I think this is who we are, we were already there, so it didn't feel like a shift.
Yeah.
But moving in together and going concretely from long distance to in person, that was huge.
There's a big difference from subtle changes to drastic changes.
Absolutely.
The thing with our coming into the DDBG, that was subtle. That was something that grew over time, and one day we kind of like, oh, I guess we are.
My favorite story, because I called you Daddy while you were fucking me.
Yeah.
Your reaction was quite clear. There was no question.
Yeah, there was no doubt about it. Yeah. That was a subtle change, rather than, say being, okay, well, we're in a DDBG power exchange now, but let's do high protocol.
Right, and then let's decide what that means, and let's make a whole bunch of arbitrary rules, not based on experience, but based on what we think it is, and let's just, do a 180.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very overwhelming. And I think that's another thing to keep in mind. If you are making a drastic, concrete shift, we're going from this to that, you are essentially starting as if you were a newbie. Okay? You have the experience with each other. Of course you do. You have your understanding of power exchange. But if you are saying, we used to do it this way, and now we're going to do something completely different from top to bottom, the whole list is completely different, you are essentially starting from maybe not square one, but you're like a newbie. So the same things that we would tell somebody who's brand new to kink about going slowly and easing into it and getting really comfortable with one or two things before you add a bunch else, it kind of applies here. You will move a little bit faster through it because you have the knowledge of each other and you understand the concepts of power exchange, but it's
you probably
not that
have
much different.
and you probably have an idea of where to find the knowledge that you need.
Right, but it truly
still
isn't. If you are making that kind of drastic change, and I have seen people who are like, we did owner slave and now we are caregiver little, and I'm like, and they made it a full shift. They didn't combine multiple ways into one. That's a big shift to make.
Yeah.
Even if it's the exact right shift and it feels completely natural, you are still functioning at a kind of beginner level in some way. Not necessarily the things you're doing, but the fact that you're doing those things with this partner. So cut yourself some slack. Be mindful of the fact that all of this takes time. Go back to the cliche we said at the very beginning about how this is a journey. I think the big thing I want, wherever you fall in these feelings of being overwhelmed, whether because you're new or because of life or because you've made a change, it's that you're not alone. You're not the only one. You're not failing at kink because you're feeling overwhelmed right now because you didn't catch on the first day, because you and your partner are struggling to get through this, because you set in your mind an arbitrary goal that in 2 weeks y'all would be from here to here and you haven't made it yet. It's just not how it works.
Right.
Now every relationship is different because of obviously, I mean, I feel like I'm saying very obvious things, but when I say every relationship is different, I'm thinking in terms of not every relationship is a married couple who's been together 20 years and has like 2.3 children. There are people who do not live with their power exchange partner, but they're very close. There are people who, for them, it's platonic and there's no romance or sex involved. There's all these iterations of it. But I think the one commonality that flows through any kind of power exchange is that you are two people learning how to relate to one another on some of the most personal levels.
Yeah.
And so even while you're feeling overwhelmed because life came at you, because you're new, because you made some drastic change to your power exchange, even in those moments, if you fall back on, this is my person in this context, and I care about this person, and I want to know this person, and I want this person to know me, and I want to see and be seen, and I have things to say and express, and also there are things I need to sit back and listen to because my partner has things they need to say and express. Even when you're not getting the trappings of your power exchange completely right now, put air quotes around the word right, because you're overwhelmed, because there's something else going on, if you are functioning at those basic levels of, I'm a human being functioning with this other human being, and we are trying to see and be seen together and trying to understand each other and trying to interact and move through this world and this life as a power exchange relationship together, the trappings mean a lot less. What you do means a lot fucking less than I see you and I'm here for you and what do you need from me? And also, they see me and they're here to help me and we are relating to one another on very personal, deep levels. I find that makes the long time that it can take to go from we're a power exchange, what does that mean, to, hey, I'm really kind of comfortable in this power exchange, we're clicking along pretty well, whether that's a month, a year, a decade before you get from that point to this point. When you're focusing on that part of it with the person, not the role, but the person, it's easier. It's not easy, but it is easier because it's about growing with another human, not I am doing these very prescribed things in this specific order, in this specific way, and if I somehow fuck one of those things up, I have failed. Like, that's just not... I think that makes it a much more two-dimensional thing that just doesn't really exist or function well in real life.
I think, I'm sitting here listening to you, and I was kind of devolved into a thought myself. And, when I was in my early 20s, I was in a relationship, and I knew nothing about kink at that time. There were no computers. There were no smartphones.
You are a dinosaur!
Rotary phones were just kind of on the way out. Okay. And in that relationship, kink came very natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, I want to tie you up. Oh, let's get handcuffs. Oh, I want to, do this, do that. And the other person was, fairly copacetic with it. But there was no access to information.
Yeah. No, it wasn't like there was no Google search to go pull up
what
you wanted to know.
No, there was no Google to search or anything. No, hey Siri, can you?
Right.
There was none of that, and in crept the feeling of, oh my gosh, I am weird. What is wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
And that became a very overwhelming feeling.
Shame will do that.
And the tensions then broke up the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, kind of, oh, well, this is wrong. This is what caused, and kind of stomped it down and, no, we're not going to go here anymore and do this. And what ended up happening was many years later, it came back with a vengeance.
What I love, and I'm not sharing details, and I know you won't because it's not just your story to tell.
Yeah.
But knowing what I know now about that first partner of yours,
yes,
and where you both ended up in terms of BDSM is fucking hilarious.
It is.
If we ever get permission from the other person to tell parts of that story, it's like the world is so fucking small.
Yeah.
And everybody's kinky.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, there are a lot of different things and reasons that you can become overwhelmed in your DS. I mean, I am so grateful, so happy that there is such a dissemination of information now. Mm-hmm. Between the web, the dungeons that hold workshops and it's such a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. I think yet another one of those topics where you could talk all day.
Yeah.
Bottom line, everybody at some point feels overwhelmed. It's never just you. You're not failing a BDSM or your power exchange because you feel overwhelmed. It is always worthy of a conversation. I'm thinking of the people, and I talk to a lot of people about this over time, so it's not just one person I'm thinking of, but I'm thinking of all the people who were very frustrated by a partner who didn't seem to be sort of like upholding their end of the power exchange bargain. And there are a lot of reasons that could be, but one of those reasons, like I said at the beginning, in your checklist of let's check and see what's going on here, are they overwhelmed? Are they feeling like they're drowning in an ocean of kink information and high expectations that they've set for themselves or that have been set for them? Is it possible that they're overwhelmed because they're on the wrong path? This is not the kind of power exchange they wanted. Maybe they're interested in another kind. I think another way people get overwhelmed, often new people, but not always, because I've had conversations with people who are more established, and that is the difference between your reality of BDSM and kink and power exchange and the fantasy model that people talk about online or what you thought it was or could be before you learned better. There are a lot of people who are like, well, I'm clearly not doing it right because I'm not doing it the way it's outlined here in this fantasy that I came across 20 years ago. And that just comes back to the reminder that we give a lot, which is it is whatever you make of it. There is consent and communication are like the two things you gotta have. And after that, it's whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's kink life or power exchange in order to be valid. And I think some people do get overwhelmed by that because they're trying to meet a standard that their local community has seemed to set, or that people that they admire are doing, or something they saw in porn or read in erotica, whatever it is, they're trying to meet a standard that doesn't even exist and shouldn't exist. And if you are hearing from people that are supposed to be leaders of a community telling you it's supposed to be like this, like, ooh, that would be a community red flag. We should probably do a topic on that one day. Community red flags. Because we talk about people red flags all the time, but communities have their own red flags. I'll percolate on that. So if you've ever been overwhelmed, welcome to the club. You will be there again. It's the human condition. If you are currently overwhelmed, you are not alone. You are not broken. You're not fucking it up. You might be fucking it up if you're not talking to your partner about it. You might be killing the relationship accidentally because you didn't just have a conversation. But when you're feeling overwhelmed, there's no real fix always, but a conversation with the partner that you've got is always, always, always part of it. Yeah. So I think that might be a good place to leave it. Mm-hmm. Anything else that you would like to say that you have not yet said?
Nope.
I know I suck up all the oxygen in the room. Really? You said that really fast. I mean, you could have pretended that maybe I don't suck up all the oxygen. I would like to go on record that when I'm in a group, I do not do that. I'm actually mostly quiet until invited to speak, or until I get really comfortable.
That is true.
I just want that on the record. Okay.
That's very true.
So I think that's all we have to say about that for this week. We, of course, have a bonus section because we always have a bonus section.
That's what we do.
And so, that's all I got to say about that.
All right. So are we good?
I am not the one who gets to decide that.
Okay. Keep it kinky. Because you sucked up all the oxygen. I put my hand on your leg, girl.
I know, that's usually your sign to stop talking. I normally do a big, and then I say it. And I didn't do that. And you just went, and I wasn't ready, and I thought I had a second, and I did not. It's the second time in 200 and some odd episodes we fucked it up.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Those are pretty good.
That's not
That's
bad.
not bad. That's not bad.
All right.
1% failure rate.
Okay.
That's not bad.
So you ready?
No. Keep it kinky, y'all. We'll see you next week. Daddy? Daddy?
Yes, baby girl.
Can I talk to the crickets, please?
Go ahead.
I feel like I heard an intake of a gasp from everybody when we fucked that up. Especially since we usually get so many compliments on how do y'all do that? 224 times have gone well. 2 have not.
Yeah.
Right. It's a 1% failure rate. I don't feel bad about that. I don't. That's a better failure rate than some birth controls. Okay, so I feel like we're okay. Oh God, yes, silent quarantine is definitely getting to my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you got for the bonus section? Oh, let's see. Do we want to do an emoji of the week? Yes. Okay, so this will be personal. It'll be a different emoji for everybody.
Oh.
But if you've ever used an emoji to sort of show that you're feeling sort of overwhelmed and whatever your preferred emoji for that expression is, that's the one I want. In the newsletter, when I remember to do emojis of the week, what I do in the newsletter is I put it in the subject line. I will figure out mine, and that will be in the newsletter subject line. Yet another reason to subscribe to our newsletter. So yeah, that will be our emoji of the week. Whatever emoji you use to indicate to somebody you're talking to that you are overwhelmed, that will be the one. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Okay. I kind of needed that laugh.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. So yes, what have you got for bonus section stuff?
What have I got?
We're gonna finally get our microwave installed.
Yes.
Our over-the-range microwave that's been sitting on our kitchen floor for a month. It's gonna be installed on Friday.
I made a promise to her. I said if we don't get it installed last weekend, I will get somebody in to do it.
I think he quoted us a better price
Yeah.
than he did the first time.
Yes.
We have a handyman.
Yeah. And he will be here Friday to take care of that.
And to put up our new ceiling fan
and
in
to
our
put
living
up
room.
the ceiling fan.
Our ceiling fan in our living room is kind of ugly, and I don't look up, so it doesn't matter, but it does matter, and so I'm ready to have our new ceiling fan out.
The we have a vaulted ceiling
It's so high.
in the living room, and I can put a ceiling fan up in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah, you do it all the time.
I've done it numerous times, but as high as that is, I do not want to get up there on the ladder and try. I don't.
No. You've already fallen off of a step stool in this house. We're not falling off of a ladder in the middle of the living room. We're not doing it. We are not doing it. We are not doing it. It's not an option.
No, that's a little bit of a further fall. But
yeah, we have a hole in our wall from his fall off of the step ladder.
Yeah.
Brand new house. You have said this, and is the exact right description. It's like the first scratch on your new car.
Yeah.
It's a hole in our living room wall that needs to be patched. Has it been patched?
It's behind a bookcase now. You can't see it anymore.
But I know
it's hidden by the bookcase.
I would love to put a massive scratch on your not new vehicle. And then just go, but it's parked behind my car. Nobody can see it. Right. Look at your face. Look at your face. Okay, podcast listeners, you cannot see his face. Y'all know what face I'm getting, though. Y'all know what face I'm getting. Nixia in the live stream chat says vaulted ceiling equals whips in the living room. This is true once these children grow the fuck up and move out. It's all I'm waiting on.
And suspension hooks.
Yes. And one day we might empty out our outside storage shed that's currently your shop.
Yeah.
And if we do that, will also be a space. Mm-hmm. We'll have to put something up in front of the one window so nobody can peek in and see, but yes. Silent Winged is also right. Any hole in a wall is a place for the creepy crawlies in the wall to come out. Yes. Yes. I had also thought of that because that's another call that has to be made to the pest control people.
Yes. Because
we should be on a quarterly whatever, but it's Florida and there are bugs and they came out before the quarter was up.
Yeah.
I had a dream the other night about spiders.
Oh, God.
I know. I'm not a fan of spiders in general. And we have seen a few around here lately, and these are not the little teeny tiny baby spiders. These are like, you could see their legs from across a room. And I've had a couple dreams about them, and I woke up thinking it was real, and it had actually happened.
Yeah. Living in Florida, we have a spider here. And I get them confused because one is an Australian version and one is the native. They're the huntsman spider or the wolf spider.
Gotcha. So one is like here and one's the Australian version.
And one is the Australian
Maybe somebody
version.
from Australia will be able to tell us.
Yeah, and I cannot think of which is which right now. But they get a fairly good size. They're not like tarantula size, but they're a fairly good size. And basically what they do, they hunt palmetto bugs.
Which that's fine. Please hunt those fuckers. I hate those things.
Yeah, which is fine. But, they don't have to do it in the house.
No, they need to go out into their habitat.
Right.
Away from
me. Ignyxia, it's the wolf spiders we have here. Okay.
Normally I'm not weird about spiders except once they get to a certain size. And then I'm very weird about them. In my dream, the spider that I was dreaming about was really apparently 3 spiders because it started out as, I think, the wolf spider, because we have seen a few around here. Yeah. And then it like morphed into a daddy longlegs, which don't bother me. They're fine. I think they're bug eaters too. I don't know. And then it morphed into a tarantula. And that's when I woke up. I was like, okay, we're done now. We're done with this sleeping thing. We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really, spiders. They are not my thing. I'd rather deal with a snake any day of the week.
Which we have had that in the backyard. Yeah. That was a little baby one. He was fine.
And I think the worst thing that I hate about spiders is when I walk into a web.
I
go into like this
special interpretive dance that is Okay, so I'm an awful human being for acknowledging that it's funny as fuck. I am also highly empathetic because we've all done it, I think. I know I have. And I don't want to walk into the web either, but it is funny to see my very laid back, calm, zen-like daddy dom walk, flail for several minutes. Do a few shudders, go, get it off me, get it off me, get it off me. Is there a spider on me? Like, he's done the whole thing. And then we get in the car and we go, and he's zen again. Yes, Georgia Little, we get, the palmetto bugs. I hate those things. I hate those things so bad. When I was a little girl, we lived in and I mean literal woods. The first, from like time I was like 2 until I was like 14, 15. And they were really bad out there. And no matter how, and our home was not airtight. It was a tin can that shook in a strong wind. And they were everywhere. And I still, like, I understand spider phobias. I understand snake phobias. I have a phobia about that specific bug. And cry, sob, scream, run out of a room. And all of the people in my life are very annoyed by it because it's Florida, and so we have a lot of them. But I hate those things so bad. I hate those things so bad.
Mm-hmm. So we're finally getting we went in a big arc from talking about microwave and ceiling fans, didn't we?
To bugs, because we need to call the pest control company.
Yeah. So that will finally be taken care of. We'll get that done.
There's a rumor that maybe the dishwasher might get fixed.
I have started researching electricians
and plumbers.
Well, I found the name of the guy who came out from Lowe's that installed the toilets.
Oh yeah, I want him to fix that toilet.
And
that's not why we're calling him, but that's what I want.
He was great. I loved him. He was really good.
Wasn't he the guy you were in a conversation with, and he actually corrected himself on either, was it pronouns?
The pronouns,
on pronouns. Mm-hmm. He corrected himself. It was like, I assumed. But I was like, we love a woke plumber. Hello. In kind of rurally Florida, like the middle of the state where what? Where they're more what? Like we're so red in this part of the state. We're maroon, and a plumber who didn't assume pronouns. I am here for it. Yeah, I'm glad you have his card.
And I thought I had lost his card, and I could not remember the name. So yesterday I was on a mission, and I found his card. And yes, I've also been researching electrician, because we do have some things that need a professional to look at.
Yeah, because calling the electrician, there's 2 things that have nothing to do with the dishwasher.
With the dishwasher.
That could be fixed.
Yeah. And, one is in the living room with the lights, with the weird light switch that does strange things.
Every house, I know every house I've ever lived in, there's one light switch that you're like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
That is our one light switch this time.
That is our one light switch. And, when we got the new refrigerator, we kept the old one. Mm-hmm. And the intention was going to put it out in the garage.
Our garage that is filling up so fast right now.
Yeah. And that's going to be one of the next things we tackle. We've got stuff to organize that. We just need to put it all in place and organize it better. The reason I wanted the fridge was not for extra food for the kids. Forget that.
We have a deep freeze for that.
My wood finishes.
That now live in the refrigerator inside.
wood finish has a shelf life greatly affected by heat. Well, it's hotter in fucking Florida. So therefore the shelf life is extremely diminished. So I wanted the refrigerator to put in the garage. And it wouldn't need to be kept really cold, but just cooler than the air temp, and keep all the finishes in there so they don't go bad as fast.
Yes, and maybe the finishes could not be sitting next to the eggs right now.
Well, that's only that's only one that does need to be refrigerated. Thankfully, it's all natural.
Still sitting next to my eggs.
But the other finishes are in a plastic tote in the laundry room.
Oh, yeah. I need to organize the laundry room, too.
Right. So it'd be nice to get that stuff into its own little spot to help extend the life of it. And every time I plugged the refrigerator in that I tried to hook it up, it blew the circuit.
So I wonder if our electrician will be as woke as our plumber. I mean, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I support it, for sure. So in other bonus section news, Sunday was John Brownstone's birthday, which we talked about last week, and we talked about on the Friday Hangout, and I'm talking about it again because now you've opened your birthday present. And so you can say what you got. You got dinner from Carrabba's.
Yep.
Ordered it online, picked it up. That was smooth. That
Oh.
was the best pickup food thing
Yep.
I've dealt with in a long time. Cake from Publix. If you don't have a Publix, I'm so sorry. And your birthday present, which was
a brand spanking new coffee grinder.
and not like a basic one.
No.
Like this was like I did the research. This is a conical burr. Don't ask me. You don't have to hold the button the whole time you're trying to grind.
Exactly.
You have a feeder doolally for your beans. And I gave it to you at a time when there's no need to grind any beans. You're welcome. You're really good at that patience thing, though.
Yeah.
I did notice you unbox it and it has a home. You just can't use it.
I have no need to grind any coffee. It has been good. It is one I know we talked about the other day. Opened up the bag and the aroma of
God, the whole house smelled delicious.
Was just amazing.
Yeah.
And folks, sorry, we seem to be having little odd glitches with the feed.
Podcast audio folk, hopefully you're fine.
Yeah. What we tried was the country?
Yeah, the country of origin sample pack.
Yes. And one of them was an Ethiopian coffee. And that was the first one I tried. Well, the first morning, the first cup, oh my gosh, it was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. I tried it black before I put any stevia or heavy cream in there. And very smooth tasting, no bitterness to it whatsoever. It was very, very good.
Y'all, so I wake up, he's still got a little bit of bottom of his cup. I take a sip because we know I'm an iced coffee kind of person. That one little sip of cold coffee, by the way, was so good. I had a hot coffee that morning so I could try it. I'm still in the middle of fucking July in Florida, not a fan of hot coffee because I don't like the heat, but that was good. That was so good. I can't wait to try some of the other blends. But yeah, it's so good. Yeah, when I say the cold brew is not bad, I mean that it's as good as the other brews we've used for our cold brew. It's just as good. It's just not like the Ethiopian. I was like, holy shit, this is good. It's not at that level for me, but that's okay. It's still drinkable. If y'all have heard my slurping with my coffee today, that is what I'm drinking. It is my second one of the day because it was my turn not to sleep last night, so we're going to be highly caffeinated
We take
today.
turns. And thank you for the birthday wishes, Crow and CDC. Yeah. And Crow, in answer to your question, why would somebody want to live in Florida?
Because they're all masochists? No.
I grew up, I was born and raised in the Catskill Mountains of New York. And in the 2.5 months of summer that we had there, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And autumn was magical with the leaves changing colors on the mountain. Once autumn ended and winter set in, several feet of snow at a time and below zero temperatures. So here in Florida, it's kind of the opposite.
It's the exact opposite.
Come October, the weather turns very mild, and from October, pretty much most of the time through May.
April,
May, give or take here or there. It is just absolutely beautiful to do anything and everything outside in Florida. And until summer, which June, July, August, it's like living on the sun. So.
And there are differences. So where we live right now, those months were exactly it because there was no humidity.
Right.
When we lived not even that much further south, but in the Tampa Bay area, that dwindled because it stayed hot until November. And then by March, we were hot again.
Yes.
And I can only imagine what South Florida must be like.
Oh.
And then in the Panhandle, when I lived up there for many, many years, we could get cold enough I actually had to like wear a scarf and like gloves. But no snow. I'm here. I'm a Florida girl. I am. I'm a good Lord. If you watch the news, we clearly have issues. We clearly have problems.
It's kind of one of those things, and this is how I look at it now. You know, if you live up north, you know, you have summer and you kind of hibernate in the wintertime because it's too cold to go outside. So here in Florida, we hibernate during the summer.
Hell yeah.
In the AC.
Hell yeah. One of our next projects, well, we're now homeowners, so every day is a project. But one of the next things in here in our office/recording area, we are going to finally put some curtains up over the blinds because while we are taking advantage of the natural light that all these windows afford us for recording, it's also hot as fuck. And so we need to turn this room into a cave, and then I'll bet it'll be so pleasant.
It'll make a big difference.
And then in the winter, we'll open the curtains and let the sun come through and heat it back up.
Yeah.
But Crow, yes, gloves and a scarf. It was terrible. I thought I looked really cute, but also I hate it. I would actually, no matter how cold it got, it could be like for us down to 20, 25 degrees. It was a really cold winter up in the Panhandle. It would be that, and I would be so frustrated with this damn putting on a coat, taking on a coat, putting on a scarf and gloves, taking on. Hated that. I would just walk from my house to the car in the cold with maybe my sweater on and just like wait for the car to warm up. No. I'm such a baby about even the slightest bit of cold.
You know what did it for me, Crow? When I was a kid, I loved the snow in the winter. You know, I ice skated, I tobogganed, I skied.
That sounds like activity.
Even had friends with snowmobiles. Used to, go out snowmobiling once in a while. Then I got older, and I was out of school, and I had to drive to work in the winter.
Yeah.
I was no more over that crap.
I have, since moving out of the Panhandle and down now Central Florida, but when we lived in the Tampa Bay area, I have learned the new phenomenon that I know I don't remember experiencing at any other place I've ever lived in Florida or elsewhere.
Yeah.
Which is when it's hot enough, when you're driving, I don't care how good the AC is rolling, the heat emanating up from the road will absolutely come through your floorboards, and your feet are hot. Hot, hot, hot. I have not personally experienced a day or a time so hot that I know of where tires melted, but I have heard of that before. I don't know, is that urban legend or is that a real thing? I know I've heard of it being hot enough for that. And we might not have snow days here. Well, Central Florida, we have less of this, but we do in Florida have hurricane days.
Yes.
So that's not awful if the hurricane's not really that bad. Or it's not actually coming to you, but your area is being safe. Yeah. I mean, it sucks when like you're about to get hit by a fucking hurricane. That does suck.
Well,
but, let's be real. But a hurricane day when you're not actually in the path of the hurricane, great. Well, it was when I was a kid. It's less so when I'm an adult because then I'm like, wait.
Yeah. Well, and for anybody who's not familiar with it, the reason they do that is because the schools are some of the most sturdiest built buildings, and they are used as shelters.
Yeah. So if you're in the path of the hurricane, they're closing everything down so people will stay their ass home or evacuate or whatever they need to do. And if like the last hurricane season with us living here in this area, we were not in the path of anything, but they thought that our schools would be used as potential shelters because of getting out of town.
Oh yeah.
And so they closed us down for 3 or 4 days so that our schools could be available
because
as shelters.
People on the East Coast were
they thought
inland, evacuating inland.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there is that. And quite frankly, hurricanes can be absolutely devastating. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. I sat through Ivan when the eye barely missed us by 20 miles, and it went over the house, and that was terrifying. I had just given birth to the oldest and watched on the news as my mom and all of my closest friends went through Katrina and could get almost no information for weeks because towers were down and blah, blah, blah. I have seen some of the worst that hurricanes can do, and yet I will take a hurricane over any of that other mess you got. Tornadoes terrify me because you don't get, but like, what, 5 minutes of warning? Earthquakes terrify me because you get less than that. And I'm not here for snow because I don't like the cold. So I will take a hurricane, as bad as they are, any day. Any day. Plus, I get 72 hours. And quite frankly, the way the weather goes, I have learned I am definitely becoming, like, I'm feeling my age. So weather reporting, especially in hurricanes, has gotten better over time because technology is better. So they start talking about them earlier, especially now that we've seen how devastating bad hurricane seasons and bad hurricanes can be. They talk about them earlier, but I am that old person who's now like, well, back in my day, we didn't really know the path until 72 hours out. And so then you decided when to evacuate, if to evacuate. And now I get very, like, I'll watch the hurricane tracking and all of that when we're a week, 2 weeks out, but I'm not actually paying attention to it till we're 72 hours out, because then it's like, then you kind of know where it's going. Then you have a better idea.
If Jim Cantori shows up, you know you're in trouble.
If he's on your beach, you need to run, okay? Get in your car and go.
That's where the eye's going to land.
It's coming for you. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and Nick Nixie is right that the only way out of Florida is north. So, yeah.
Yeah.
With, was it Iris?
Iris.
The one Irma. Lord, I knew it was an I.
Yeah.
When Irma came through, we did the back roads.
Yes.
We did not get on the interstate. And it wasn't completely bumper to bumper, but it was still backed up more than those back roads usually are. Mm-hmm. That was a wild experience.
Well, I mean, we have two interstates.
Two main
interstates, 95 and 75.
Oh, God, 75 is the bane of my
existence. To get out of the state. You know, and then there's 301.
And there's 19.
And 19.
Yeah, and then once you get up into the Panhandle, you can get on 10.
Running east or west.
Yeah. I-10 is very interesting because it runs the entire length of the country. So I have taken that to make road trips to California. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. But yeah, and it was funny because we talked about this at the time. God, it's been a couple years now. Mm-hmm. When we evacuated for Irma, because I'd never evacuated before.
Right.
So, like I said, I was sitting in a house as Ivan went over our head and just at the last minute turned and the eye went over Mobile and I was less than about 20 miles away from Mobile. And it never even occurred to me to evacuate. And so we evacuated because I need internet connection.
Yeah. And in the end, she was very grateful because
I had air conditioning too.
We had air conditioning, and what ended up where we were living at the condo at that time.
We were without power for a week.
There would have been no power for about 6-7 days. Yeah.
I mean, no damage, just no power.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes, George, a little 10 is the one that runs through Jacksonville. Yes.
Yeah. You can basically start in Jacksonville, St. Augustine, somewhere there, and just keep driving west.
Yeah.
You will go through the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating because I'm a Florida girl and I'm totally Southern girl. I've lived in Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida, and those are the only states I've ever lived in, and always at the coast. So as far south in Mississippi and Alabama. Well, Alabama's in Montgomery, but in Mississippi, right on the coast. So I only know that part of the South. And when people would ask me, what is that area like? I was always like, it's very green. There's lots of grass and trees. I don't know what to tell you. And then I took that drive all the way across 10 and I saw how the landscape changes. And it was it was beautiful. It was fascinating. We were broke as fuck and did not have a camera, and it was before smartphones, so I didn't even have that. So I took no good pictures at all. But to watch the landscape change like that, oh my God, I have no desire to make a road trip now or in general, and certainly not on an interstate anymore, even though that is the fastest way. But I would love to have that kind of trip oh my God, it was so cool. Especially since my whole life I had only seen the landscape we have here, primarily in Florida, but through parts of the South. And yeah. And just to go from it being everything being flat to things not being flat. Yeah. That was fascinating.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Okay. So we have chatted for quite a while, as always.
Yep.
Thank y'all for listening if you're podcast listeners, or watching if you are on YouTube. We appreciate you. Hopefully, I don't know how much this topic this week helped, but hopefully it was validating, so you realize you're not alone. Friday, as always, we will do our live hangout on YouTube.
Yes.
For those who can't usually join us on Wednesdays, if you can make it on Friday, you will see a difference. We have our new camera. It's up and running.
Yeah.
Several people came in for a test live stream we did on Tuesday to make sure we could make it work. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I got. So
Glad to have you all here.
yeah. We love you guys. We will see you next week, Friday, whenever we see you again. Okay. Bye.